Hello and welcome back to the Cars Ireland YouTube channel. Can you justify spending €70,000 on a Peugeot? Let's find out, shall we?
Proud sponsors of the Cars Ireland YouTube channel. CarsIreland.ie, for car history data you can trust. Buying a used car? Get an exclusive coupon code now. See the comment section for more details.
So what are we in this week? Well, this is the Peugeot 508 PSE. And you might be wondering, well, what does PSE stand for? And well, that is Peugeot Sport Engineered. And it's actually the most expensive and most powerful road production car ever produced by Peugeot. There's quite a lot going on here. You have a 1.6 litre turbocharged petrol engine. You have an electric motor on the front axle. You have an electric motor on the back axle, so it is four-wheel drive, and all that combines to give you 355 brake horsepower, a 0 to 100 kilometers an hour time of 5.2 seconds, a top speed of 250 kilometers an hour, and all of those various different driving lines are managed by an 8-speed automatic gearbox. And to be honest, it looks the business too, doesn't it? I mean, this is just gorgeous, and particularly in estate form. Big fan of estates, and this one has not let me down at all. I think it's one of the best looking cars out there, and some other brands could really learn a thing or two from Peugeot's design at the minute, because this is just gorgeous. Now, a personal issue I have with some hybrids is how it responds when you are asking more of it in an instant, and how it manages all those different motors and engines and varies and choices and all that crack all at once. And the Peugeot's actually pretty decent at it. It can often let down a performance car just by its response, but it's actually not too bad in this setup at all. You can be tipping along in electric mode or hybrid mode, and then you plant the foot and it kicks in pretty quick without much fuss. You can actually manage how it... Oh, that is very quick. Now you get different driving modes as well, naturally enough. So you have comfort, which slackens off the dampers a bit. Hybrid, which I'm struggling to tell the difference between comfort and hybrid. Then there's four-wheel drive, sport, and electric. So you can only use electric when there is battery available. And to really get all that performance out of it, you do need the battery charge so it can drive those motors. We are very deep in December, it's quite cold, and I have found myself gravitating towards four-wheel drive mode. It has a very satisfying push from the back, and it really gets up and moving very quickly in four-wheel drive mode. It actually has amazing grip, and you can feel it just get up and go when you get it into four-wheel drive mode, and that has been the sweet spot for me. Now, one thing I will say is that 0 to 100 kilometers an hour time of 5.2 seconds doesn't actually feel like that's what it's doing. Now, that is purely based on a bum dyno basically and a feeling, but it doesn't quite feel like it's maybe as potent as 5.2. I don't know, I'd have to test it. And to be honest, the engine and driveline does kind of lack a bit of character. It doesn't sound in any way amazing. I think it feeds in some sound as well just to help it along. It's just not got that feel or je ne sais quoi. Ah yeah, cliche French statements. Has to be done. Now, one area in which it excels, and is probably one of the best cars I've driven all year, if not the best, is its ride. The ride is just so spot on. It is stiff enough without ever jarring or upsetting you or like feeling it through your spine. It is just sublime, and particularly on Irish back roads, which I'm on now, it's just the sweetest thing ever. It's so well set up for Irish roads. It's perfect. You get a great sense of confidence from the car. That might be because of that impressive ride, that nothing seems to fluster it. It just cruises along, and you can get in a flow with it. Especially on wider back roads, you can really play around with it. It's incredibly rewarding. It's got an agility to it that belies its weight because of batteries, obviously. There's a decent sense of feedback from the steering wheel. It is electronically assisted, and I mean, you can't feel a huge amount, but once you get used to it, you get a certain confidence from it. So as I said, I found myself gravitating towards four-wheel drive, and then what you do is you just get slow into a corner, leave the brakes on maybe a tad longer than you need to, just to transfer that weight a bit, get back on the power early, get that four-wheel drive really kicking in, really getting the grip going, and straight out of a corner, and you can kind of get some correction from the back end, and it's fun. It's really fun. This is such an impressive car. I've really enjoyed it. Now, the quoted fully electric range on that battery, as quoted by Peugeot, is 42 kilometers. In reality, and depending on your driving style, I think you'd be talking more around 30 kilometers of electric range. Obviously better around town. All those different bits of qualifiers for hybrid vehicles. But up here where the adults sit, it's exquisite and stylish and stimulating to look at is what I would call it. One thing I did notice when I sat in is it is quite a tight feeling cabin in here for what is a large executive saloon. You know, you really are hemmed in. And you do sit low, which suits the sporty style, but maybe people would be expecting maybe a bit more space up here, but it's very low and you're in and you feel like you're in the cabin, which is no bad thing to me. I would like to point out the badge. It is a different badge to the standard Peugeot one, and it looks like someone drew it with a highlighter back in school back in the day. Not sure if I'm the biggest fan, but it's fine. Now, as this is the top spec 508, you get something that is fully loaded, so you get those higher spec speakers, the focal ones, you have sat nav, you get wireless charging, and these seats that are covered in leather and Alcantara, and they actually have a massage function too. So you get some strange options like cat paw, where it feels like a cat is just gently pawing at your back. It's actually not bad, and I have said in the past that I don't like massage seats in our VRS review.
You don't like the massage function? You don't like being too comfortable?
I don't like being touched. Particularly,
thanks for the warning.
Particularly by a car in a very odd fashion around my lower back, just sort of poking around in there. But these are pretty good, and they're very comfy too. Now, as this is a modern Peugeot, you get the small steering wheel and the Peugeot i cockpit, so the digital cockpit here in front of me. The idea is you set the steering wheel low enough, you can see over and read all the stuff here. For the most part, it's fine. Personally, it just cuts off the end of the screen at this setting here. You can maneuver it and change it a bit, but your first time getting in, you will find it a bit tricky. There's lots of configuration on it, as with most of these ones, and this is a very good one. And you can even put your sat nav in it, and it has the option of night vision, which is just really cool. You also get your infotainment, which is set in a 12.3 inch screen, just set a bit lower down here, which I do quite like, rather than high up. It's nice down here. It works pretty well. It's a bit laggy in the cold, I've found, but other than that, once it warms up, it's perfectly fine and very responsive for the most part. Unfortunately, most of the air conditioning is built into the screen beyond some quick haptic feedback buttons down here underneath, and you actually get your heated seats and a haptic feedback button down here too, which is handy. And just above that, you have these piano style buttons that override and bring you directly to the specific function. And it actually has the option where you can get the engine to solely charge the battery. So if you want to have your battery when you get to a more urban area after a longer journey, I mean, it's not ideal in the long run. Really, you want to be keeping this charged at home, but it's a nice option to have. Look, I like it. I really like it. And I think the only thing that might put people off is the steering wheel, but other than that, I don't see how you can fault this too much. So it's obviously meant to compete against top performing stuff like 3 Series, Audi A4, Merc C43 AMG, that kind of stuff. Now the 508 PSE actually undercuts a 340i xDrive BMW by quite a sizable chunk of money. This is 71 grand in estate form, whereas a 340i xDrive estate starts at 85,000 euro, which did surprise me. I thought they were going to be more closely related on price, but clearly not. And when you start ticking boxes on that 3 Series, you could easily climb into 6 figures pretty quick. So an A4 S-Line diesel Quattro with 204 brake horsepower starts at 65 grand. So the more you look into that, this is getting more and more appealing. Obviously badge snobbery comes into it, which I don't think that's ever going to go away. But I can see the appeal of this package. Rides well, handles well, Looks so good. Looks, I think it's the best out there. It's so good looking. I actually think if I was whoever is head of Peugeot or head of PSE, and this might sound sacrilege as someone who would confess to being a petrol head, I think this might have made amazing sense as a fully electric vehicle. Because that drivetrain kind of lacks the character, it might have just been as good as a fully electric vehicle with a decent range, a big battery, and if you could compete with the likes of a Tesla Model 3, or I don't know, go the other way and compete with an Audi e-tron GT, it's just whether people will buy something with a Peugeot badge on it for that kind of money. That's the question. But we need more of these out there. There's too many boring BMWs and Audis. We need to get more sexy Peugeots on the road, especially like this, because it's just fabulous. If you'd like to search Cars Ireland for a 508 or any Peugeot or any car at all, please do click on the link above and have a look around, and we'll see you again next time. Bye bye.